Our reporters across the country have spoken to countless people who've lost jobs or worried about getting evicted from their homes and paying the bills. My question to you, sir, is what is next for these Americans? What's currently in the works to help our neighbors get back on their feet?
Well, I think you see the numbers come out 2 weeks ago. We had the best job numbers in our history. We're coming back very fast. It's going to be really, I think it's going to be extraordinary. I think you're going to have a tremendous third quarter. I think you're going to have a phenomenal next year. 401ks, the stock market's almost at a record. It's almost right now at a record, which is pretty amazing considering we're going through a pandemic, hopefully toward the end of the pandemic. And tremendous things are happening. We built the greatest economy in history, the best jobs, the best job numbers for African American, Asian American, women, everybody. Hispanic Americans were through the roof. And we had to turn it off. We turned it off, and now what we're doing is building it again.
And I wanted to ask you, sir, when you're talking about the jobs numbers, pre-virus, the jobs numbers were around 3.8%, if I'm not mistaken. We get to May, we're up in the 20s, and now we're somewhere still in the teens. How do you try and return those numbers back to a pre-virus state?
Well, all you can do is create the jobs, and we're doing that. We're having record numbers of business openings. In other words, people are getting back to opening their business, and we've helped with PPP and lots of other things, stimulus. And we have tremendous numbers. 2 weeks ago, again, we reported the largest jobs number gain in history. Nobody's ever seen a number like that. So we're opening up. We had to close it. We saved millions of lives by doing it. We did a great job with it. We banned China because they were very infected, and we did that very early, much sooner than anybody thought it would even be possible to think about. And we've done a good job, but now we're opening up our country, and the jobs numbers are good, and they're coming back very fast.
When you're talking about opening up the country, obviously that's my next question. Around 120,000 Americans died from COVID-19, and 2.2 million confirmed cases are around the nation. The virus seems to be surging across the south and the western parts of the U.S., as evidenced by rising hospital rates. Now, there seems to be a little bit of a contradiction, if you will, coming from your White House when you're saying that the virus is overhyped and not a big deal, and yet your officials...
I didn't say overhyped. No, I didn't say overhyped.
Your officials seem to be...
I think we're doing well with it. And if I wouldn't have done what I did, we would have had 3 or 4 million lives lost, as opposed to we're at about 112, 115,000, which is far too many. It came from China, and it was a terrible thing that happened. I guess we're all looking at that, how that happened, because it was a disgrace. Could have been stopped in China, but we could have lost anywhere from 2 to 4 million people, as opposed to where it is now, which is probably 115, but it could get, a little bit higher than that.
But is it right to
get up to 150, it could go beyond that, but we would have lost 2 million to 4 million lives. We've done a good job, and now we're bringing the country back.
But is it right to be reopening the country and focusing on that message when we still have surging rates in the south and the west?
Focusing on all messages. I have many messages. One of the things is safety, and one of the things is getting our jobs back, because that also has an impact on people and people's lives, including their health.
The leading experts are saying social distancing still needs to be respected, and masks still need to be worn, and that sort of thing.
I don't know.
How do you try about that, especially?
Why aren't you further away, and why aren't you wearing a mask?
I can take a step back.
No, but you're way. I mean, you're not social distancing based on the question.
But we also got tested, and when we're talking about testing, that's obviously something that has to be done on a large scale.
Everyone I'm around is tested, and many of the people that we did temperature checks. We did a lot of things. No, we're very safe. We're very careful.
And moving forward, sir, when you have future rallies that are planned in states like Wisconsin and Florida, are you worried about safety there? Are there any precautions that are going to be taken?
I'm always worried about safety. We want to get rid of this thing. We're working on vaccines. We're doing very well. We're working therapeutically.
But 6 members of your advance team also, sir, did catch the virus.
Well, we have a massive advance team, and they're all over the country. They come from all different parts of the country, and some were temporary, and et cetera, but fine. And we reported that very early on. And they were quarantined immediately.
And sir, I wanted to ask you, given this point in our history, when you hear the words Black Lives Matter, put that phrase into your own words, if you will. What does the civil rights movement and this moment in our history, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot to me, and the civil rights means a lot to me, and nobody's done more for African Americans.
Excuse me, sir.
Nobody has done more for African Americans than I have. Criminal justice reform, opportunity zones, historically black. If you look at the size of the university, big or small, the size of the college, big or small. I did things that nobody else has ever done for them, and frankly, they're very grateful for it. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, what we've done, nobody's done. Nobody has done for the African American community what President Trump has done, other than Abraham Lincoln.
But the African Americans out in the street, people out in the street who are calling for change in systemic racism and justice in policing.
Well, because they listen to people
you,
like you, and that you don't tell the facts. You don't talk about criminal justice reform. President Obama didn't do it, and he couldn't do it. I'm not even sure he wanted to do it. But President Obama didn't do it. Nobody did it. I did it. I got it done. Unfortunately, it's never told. It's not reported. But you know what? Our black population fully understands that. They understand it, and they understand it very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we're going to head down to Raymond.